I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is the regular City Commission meeting for Monday, November 26, 2018. And if you will all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Can we have roll call, please?
Moore,
Present.
Dennison. Here. Turney,
Here.
Whedon,
Here.
Downey.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We're now to public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any agenda item. If you'll come up to the podium. Sir?
I'm Alan Robont, 114 East Front Street. I own property and have a building there and live there as well. Tonight on your agenda, you are considering an ordinance to opt out of Michigan's new medical marijuana or recreational marijuana law. Interestingly enough, we have Sean, Cameron, and Mark, who were all elected in a democratic fashion, and they were chosen by the people of Buchanan with the majority vote from the people of Buchanan, and you respect that. In the same election, the majority of the people of Buchanan overwhelmingly voted to approve the authorization and the legalization of adult recreational use of marijuana. In other parts of the state, in other communities, people voted against it. Overall, it was carried in the state. It will be law as of December 6th. Should I choose to grow 12 plants, I think it is, I can grow 12 plants. If I want to walk down the street with an unlit joint, I can do that with impunity. To waste taxpayer money and professional time in City Hall on creating an ordinance that is clearly in contrast to anything that the voters of Buchanan want is a complete waste of time, and it should not be approved. And if it is introduced tonight, all it takes is 4 commissioners, I believe, to not respond. This was the same technique that was used when I was denied being appointed to the DDA. If you feel like democracy matters, just say no. That's it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wanting to be heard?
Hi, I'm Dan Bianski, 103 North Detroit, Buchanan, Michigan. I literally just got in from Knoxville. I dropped the wife off, but it was this important to me. We spent 2 years on this medical marijuana. 2 years. We still haven't got the state's cooperation whatsoever. Now, I don't know who the powers are, but the fact that there's an ordinance on paper, by that man right there and her to stop recreational when there's been no education on this whatsoever is just ludicrous. This should have been brought up for discussion. The ordinance should have been thought through and thought about. And I don't know who the powers are that's pulling his strings, but we need to figure it out because the recreational is a year away. Doesn't need to be any decision made. And the whole idea of putting dispensaries downtown was to grow the city. And small business people, I know, are offended by the fact that I think it should be downtown, but they haven't come up with any ideas. She hasn't come up with any ideas. He hasn't come up with any ideas on how to get foot traffic downtown. Hasn't come up with any ideas as to how to rebuild dilapidated buildings that should be bulldozed down that people are putting $250,000 in to rehab. Now, I've contacted most of you. I wanted to be sitting there, but this is a joke. This is typical how he does this. You got your ordinance on Wednesday or Friday. You have to make a decision on Monday. Tell him to quit. You guys run this city, not him. Stop him. Please, stop him. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wanting to be heard? Come forward, please.
They're gonna have to arm wrestle here in a minute.
Good evening. Ed Gravelin. Again, I'm a visitor here. I'm not a citizen. But I and fellow investors have made a major investment in the city of Buchanan. And I can honestly say one of the biggest reasons for us coming to Buchanan was Bill Marks. Bill Marks and the rest of the staff, they represent the city, I think, very well. And they're very positive on the city of Buchanan. I was turned down on a piece of property on Rynearson, and the people of Buchanan spoke, and I listened, and I gave up the fight on Rynearson. And some of you new members might not be aware of that. So then again, Bill stepped up to the plate, and Bill said, Ed, you should take a look at this property over here. And I said, well, you know what, I've looked at it, and I thought about it maybe down the road. And it's an old Clark property at 408 River Street. And I'll be before you next month for that. But that is probably one of the biggest eyesores in this city. And we plan to do some good things over there. We've already started. And same thing over on 1101 Front. And one of the things we encountered just about, we started looking at it in the summertime, but we really got to the guts of our problem, was a sewer line that was 95% plugged. And this used to be a major line that was owned by the city. And the forefathers before you, they had the foresight. Pat, I don't know if you were around for that or not.
Probably I'm old.
But they saw that there was a problem there. They saw that this line that was actually owned by the city was going through public or private property, and they put in a new line. And the gentleman you had here last month, I believe, talking about the sewers in the city, he mentioned a lot of issues. And I guess I'm just a little surprised that you guys are jumping on the recreational marijuana thing so quickly. I think there's a lot of other issues that need to be addressed before that. I don't even think you should be entertaining the idea to be for it. I think you need to really just sit back and absorb what's going on around the state. You did that with medical marijuana. And you weren't the first, but you weren't the last. Grand Rapids, just last week at their last meeting, they got really, really close to having an ordinance for medical marijuana. So I guess I'm just encouraging you to slow down the process. 3 of you are new. Give it some time. And it's a serious issue, and give it some time and think it out. And thank you.
Thank you.
Randall Pitt, 312 by the high school, West Chicago. I'd like to reinforce Alan's position in that a rapid re-polling of residents is a mild form of voter suppression, in that not so many people will turn out as did in the general election, and so you won't get the whole picture, and the people who turn out are the ones who are pushing this or are enthusiastic about it. And So it seems to me it's withholding the free vote of everybody in a subtle sort of way. But that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's, Cindy.
Cindy Benson, 212 Cecil Street. I came in late and came in the middle of a conversation, but I think that what a lot of this is talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, is letter I underneath 6.
That's
Correct?
correct.
That is correct.
And you want to opt out of the,
That's the ordinance before us this evening.
okay,
Right.
I am in firm support of you. I know that the city voted in favor of it by a small margin, but a lot of us voted against it. We have medical marijuana. It took a long time to convince me of the value of that, as you well know. I do see some value in that now. I see no value in having it in downtown Buchanan. I see value in having it like where Ed has his business out there at the old bank. Places on the fringes, yes, but not in downtown. But this recreational stuff, I'm sorry. The first person that hurt somebody I know because they've been smoking, I'm sorry, I know drinkers do more. I'm not a drinker either. I will be so furious, I'll be spitting nickels. We don't need to have any more vices added to our list of things we can do to hurt other people. Let's keep the medical marijuana. I see the value of it. Let's not, as you're trying to do, let's not opt into recreational. Thank you.
Is there anyone else before Ed speaks? Anyone else wanting to? All right, Bill? Go ahead.
I'm William Haas from Red Bud Roots, live in Niles. You know, the state is way far off of this. They don't even know what they're doing. We inquire with them what's going on, and they don't even have a clue. So for you guys to try to step in and put in an ordinance right now, I think that's the wrong position. Am I for putting these dispensaries or recreational? Personally, I don't agree with recreational, but the people have spoken. You know, the people made that choice. Now I think it's going to be up to you guys, the same way it was with the medical, on how and where and what to do and how to structure this. And if you guys shut it down tonight, you're going to limit this. And dispensaries, probably not a good fit here. I don't know. I'm not a resident here, and that's for you guys to decide. But you got to look at all the other industries that are following under this. You know, there's the hemp play that's coming. There's whether we need to put these businesses out in the industrial park or not, whether the processing needs to come. That's what you guys need to be looking at, my personal opinion, is whether these, not just recreational is a good fit, but what's inside these recreational, and is that going to be a good fit? What's inside it, nobody knows yet because the state hasn't decided. So for us to prematurely come along and decide on that, I think it would be a wrong move.
Sir, come forward.
Hi, I'm Justin. I am a owner downtown. I live at 108 Front Street. We are a business and we own a property. And I just wanted to reinforce what these guys are saying. You know, I'm not for it. I'm not against it. It really doesn't matter. But I do believe that it's way. How do you get your information? How are you making this decision already? Because I'm not finding anything that would say one way or another. You know, it was like the lady that spoke up here against it. You know, she's like, "Well, I was totally against it, but now I'm for it." You know, and there's no room to change your mind, I guess is what I'm getting at. Where did you get your information from to come up with the decision to push it tonight? That's all I'm curious about, and I hope that you guys talk about that when you guys talk about your vote.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, Ed, very short, because we got a long meeting here.
I just wanted to make a correction for the record. I believe I used the example of Grand Rapids, and it was actually East Lansing. I made a mistake on that and wanted to clarify it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, is there anyone else wanting to? Yeah, you did. I timed you. Exactly. You're right. Anyone else that has not spoken that would like an opportunity to speak before we move on? Okay. Okay, so I am now closing the public comments, and we are going to go on to the consent calendar. I'll entertain a motion for that.
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve tonight's consent calendar.
Is there support?
Second.
Okay. Could we have roll call, please?
Downey?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes,
Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
thank you. Okay, I do have one before I give you the agenda to approve. I do have one addition. I need to add a check for $200 for Red Bud Hardware for a White Saturday event in the amount of $200, and so that would increase the total by $200 on number 8. So with that change, could someone give me a motion to approve the agenda with that correction?
I will make that motion, Your Honor, to approve the agenda with that correction.
Is there a second? Okay. Roll call, please.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Turney?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now we are to our fire department report.
Your Honor, I think you're going to
Oh, wait, sorry, I just jumped over there about 5 things. Okay, the audit presentation by Plant Moran. Thank you. Sorry about skipping you.
Hey, no problem at all.
Not that I'm not looking forward to hearing this, but.
I'll say, the last couple of weeks doing these board presentations, I think without exception, I've always had the pleasure of going immediately after some really lively debate on the marijuana. So when it comes to the finance report, it's kind of like the excitement for the night is over. But and I'll apologize to those in the audience. I'm going to be covering a slide deck that the commission does have. We weren't able to beam it up anywhere, so I'll be alluding to certain graphs that you don't have the benefit of seeing. But I'll try to talk my way through that. Before we get into that, I just want to especially thank Julie and Kathy, who's not here, and their departments, and Bill as well. We had, once again, wonderful cooperation during the audit, and it's a real pleasure working with your staff. Very professional in all ways. And again, we ask a ton of questions and ask to see a lot of information, and we really get treated with utmost respect, and really appreciate the great assistance. Also want to thank you as a commission for the trust you bestow on us. We are Plant Moran. I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. I'm Ken Lee Penner, a partner with Plant Moran. We have the pleasure of doing your audit and have for several years. And again, as we've come to expect, a very clean audit again. Again, management was very well prepared for us, and again, had nothing but the best cooperation. If you go to the first page, just a couple of bullets on that first slide. Again, the important thing you're going to hear me say is this was an unmodified audit opinion that's better known as a clean audit opinion, the highest level of assurance that we can give on your financial statements and the highest that you can receive. So we'll call it a grade of A on your financial statements. You should have gotten a couple of items in advance. One is the management letter. It's about a 13-page document. There's a couple of different components to that. The first just talked about some of the audit adjustments we had to make. The middle section are standard, kind of standard boilerplate language. I guess it's only 2 of you that saw our pre-audit letter, but we kind of talked about our audit plan, and if there were any deviations from that plan, we would have communicated that to you in there. There weren't any exceptions, so that's there. The third part, kind of the final part of that package is kind of our legislative update. We pay very close attention to what's going on in Lansing, and we've kind of just taken a couple of the new laws that have been passed and kind of tried to put them in a little more plain English there for you. things that might impact the city going forward. So that's there just as a reference point as well. And then the thicker bound packet, that is the financial statements. Again, it starts with our audit opinion, and then there's a lot of pages of numbers and charts and rows. What I've tried to do is take all that information and put it into just a handful of slides here for you. So with that, if you go to the first kind of pie chart there, it talks about your general fund revenue and talks about where does your general fund revenue come from. You can see property taxes makes up a little better than half, about 52% of the general fund revenue. You also do collect property taxes in a couple of your other funds, your street improvement fund and your DDA or your dial ride funds. In total, tax revenue is about $1.64 million for the city, representing about 46% of your governmental fund revenue. Next largest source of revenue there is the state sources, your state shared revenue. That accounts for about 30% of your general fund revenue. The next page just kind of compares your revenue for the last 5 years. You can see a slight uptick in 2018. And if you look at the various categories there, again, there's been a couple of adjustments just in how the state required us to report things. So none of that was too major, but you do see a slight increase in your property taxes, some significant increase in your license and permits. Again, about 70,000 of that increase was the medical marijuana permits that were pulled from the city in the past year. So that accounts for the majority of that increase. There were also some additional building permits this past year that goes in there as well. Go to the next slide. Again, just a quick snapshot. Again, as important as revenue sharing is to the city, after multiple years of decline, it looks like the state revenue finally bottomed out there in 2016. And now we've had a couple of years of increase there as well, which is good to see. And again, not keeping up with what they took away from you over the years, but at least we're finally trending in the right direction. Next slide looks at the expenditure side. Again, very impressive here how you've kept your expenditures so flat over the last, essentially we're even down from 5 years ago, but over the last 4 years really have kept those expenditures in check. It's really shown some strong restraint on the part of you as a commission, and more importantly, some very good responsibility. Again, in most categories there, you can see slight decreases in your spending. And again, this just focuses on the general fund. I really like the next slide there. That really takes kind of a 5-year look at how much has the city brought in the general fund and also expended. And you can really see those lines have stayed very close together. The orange line there represents the revenue, the blue line the expenses. If you really look at the 5-year and kind of add up what did you do over these last 5 years, you can see you took in total revenue of about right at $11 million, and your total expenses for those same 5 years is $10.9 million. So really over a 5-year period, you've really managed your revenue very well, kept it in line, haven't overspent, but also have expended, used the money, didn't just stock it all away, but have actually been using those taxpayer dollars and reinvested it in the community. So really a great slide to focus on. One slide, the next one back, this kind of looks at all your governmental funds. This would then add in your major and local street funds and some of your other funds there, and you can see a very similar story there. Last year, again, you do see that spike in your expenses. You did some pretty significant road work last year, some resurfacing projects that accounted for a little more than $500,000 of expenses. Then the next slide, again, takes a look at your general fund expenses and kind of slices and dices them a couple of ways. By category, on the left, you can see about 65% does go to cover personnel costs. That is actually right in line with where we see other cities. If you just look at general fund, that might look a little bit high. A lot of other cities your size might have the police and fire in their own fund. You guys carry that in your general fund, so when we look at that as a whole, we feel you're right in line with where your peer cities would be on that. The graph to the right shows by activity, again, about 54% of your general fund expenditures were on public safety. Again, that's something that your citizens do care about. A year ago, that number was about 48%, so you've actually increased the amount of investment in your public safety departments. If you go back to the next slide, again, taking a look at your fund balance, this is kind of what your rainy day fund has been over the last 5 years again. The blue column represents your annual expenditures. The middle orange column shows your unrestricted or your unreserved fund balance. And again, you can see you've just slowly been building that just with running tiny surpluses every year. You can see you've got roughly 8 to 9 months worth of expenses in your fund balance. Again, a very healthy position to be in. Next slide back, this is the one that as a commission you really should be proud about. This shows your budget to actual. The blue column shows your budgeted expenditures, and then the orange bar shows what you actually expended. So again, how did you get to be in a healthy fund balance position? Well, for 5 years in a row, you went through the work, you approved all the budgets, and then the final end, along the way, you made some really tough decisions, saying no to things that would be the nice to haves, not the need to haves, if you will. But again, really shows 5 years of very conservative spending and really a sound budget process that puts you in that great financial position that you are. The next slide, looking at your water and sewer fund. This is the only slide we really have on there, but again, the blue is the operating revenue, the orange is operating expenses. It does look like for the last 2 years, your expenses did exceed your revenue. This is a little bit misleading from an accounting perspective. You've been getting, for example, in 2018, about $400,000 in a SAW grant, specifically to make some maintenance improvements in your lines. That revenue isn't considered operating revenue, but the offsetting expenses are. So if we take that $400,000 for 2018 and add it back, you can actually see you are running a slight surplus in that fund as well. Again, very important to do. You do want to run a surplus in your water and sewer fund. Again, when you have to make improvements, and I know you've got a treatment plant that's coming up in not too many years. Again, it's important that you are exceeding your expenditures and saving up for those major repairs coming up. Then the last slide, again, this is, when we step back kind of as your audit firm and kind of said, all right, what would be your highlight reel if there was one at the end of the year? And these are kind of the things that jumped out at me. First bullet there, you did increase your general fund balance by a little over $330,000 this year. You were able to pay down some of the outstanding debt that the city has by about $285,000. Again, I mentioned the SAW grant. You were able to get funding of a little over $400,000. Again, that's not your taxpayer money here. That's state appointed money to do exactly what you're looking to do or what you did do with it. Again, I think the fourth bullet there is very important to stop on just for a minute. There's a lot in the news right now about status of pension funds. You can all know, and you've all heard about City of Detroit, how that really led to some serious problems there. The state of Michigan's not far behind. The teachers fund is significantly underfunded. So a lot of focus right now, and there's been some laws passed for local units like yourself too, if you don't meet certain funding levels. Again, remedial action that you do have to take. The great news for you is you are fully funded in your plan. You're 108% funded. You'd be hard pressed to find other cities. I think I've said this here in the past, but really this is not something to take for granted. You guys have been putting money away. You've been meeting your funding mandates over the years. Again, what you did is you made promises to employees over all the years that when they retire, there's going to be money for you. And you've done more than most cities do, and you've actually funded that. So when your employees do retire, they know there's going to be money for them. So that certainly is an employee benefit, and you've kind of put your money where your mouth is on that. Again, when we look across all the funds, and there's probably a dozen different funds that the city has, with the exception of the one small fund, the cemetery fund, which had a $3,000 loss this year, every other one of your funds actually increased fund balance this year. So again, that's not by accident. That's hard work and good discipline on your part. And then again, the last part, again, you were able to increase your reserves. And again, there's so many different things you can do when you're in a healthy reserve position. We've just listed a few of those here, but all in all, it was an outstanding year for the city, and we double-checked and triple-checked and made sure that those numbers were real, and we're here to report that your financial position is strong. So with that, any questions? I don't intend to go into the financials unless you guys had specific questions on that.
Commissioner Turney.
I was glad you went with that pension, because that was going to be my question to you. That is a very outstanding position for the city, so thank you for bringing that out.
The state's really concerned, if anyone's under 60% funded, they even said 60% is kind of where they want to see, and there was a lot of debate if that number was too high. Well, you have no concerns there about falling in any kind of scrutiny with at your level, so that's great.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. We look forward to these kind of glowing reports, because sometimes when you're in the trenches, you can't really see how great our staff is. And I give Julie and Bill all the credit, and every employee here works extremely hard, and it's a wonderful city, and I'm glad you agree with us.
I certainly do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're at number 8, and with that change, is there a motion to approve the payables?
Your Honor, I'll make that a motion with the change for the invoices and expenditures.
Is there support? Thank you. Could we have a roll call, please?
Attorney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison? Moore?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, now we're down to the fire department.
Mayor, Commissioners, my report is the fire inspection program report. Do you want me to present that now or during the new business? Because you got listed in new business also.
I think the new business is a motion to approve it, so we would like you to tell us about it at this point.
All right, good evening. First, I'll apologize, I'm in the not proper uniform. I got out of work late tonight, so I came in my work uniform. If none of you have met, I'm not sure if some of you have met John Prainer. John Prainer is now our certified fire inspector. So you should have in your packet the pages that we put in for presentation. The first page is what I want to brief about, but I do want to talk about the pages before we go through the briefing. The second page is the notice that we came up with to present to the public, either through letter or on the internet or the Facebook page, however we want to do that with the city, but is the notification of the program, well, how we're going to begin the program. We want that to go out to all the businesses in town and let them know that we're going to start this program. The first year of this program, if approved, is going to be more of a cursory type inspection, just as we get the program on its feet. And then as we progress on and get into the first year, we'll start looking more at a compliance base. But this is, the kind of, we got to start somewhere. So that's the first page we had, or the second page is that. The third page is the new SOG, as you guys know, or some of you know. Some of you obviously haven't been here when I presented new SOGs for us, which is our standard operating guidelines for the fire department. This is the new one that we've came up with to start off with. Right now, it's only one page, but like again, as we get this, progress through this, we know we got to start somewhere. Kind of basic. So we'll read through that in a little bit. And then the next couple pages are the actual city ordinance that depicts about fire inspections. And I can tell you, as far as I know, in my 27 years plus on the fire department, we've never performed any fire inspections. Back when Warren Weaver was the fire chief, I thought he did them. He was the fire inspector and the fire chief and the building inspector. But apparently he didn't do any fire inspections either. So we've referenced that in our SOG. And then the last two pages is, the first one is how we want to start our inspections. It's a checklist for us as we go through the businesses. This one's generic, and we know we're going to have to modify inspection checklists for each type of business because they're not all going to have the same type of requirements. So we know we're going to have to modify that. And then the last page is what we want to send out to the businesses also, so they kind of have an idea or a heads up, if you say, before we come, so they know what we're going to look for, what they may be able to look, do something on their own before we do come on site. Kind of, a heads up. So what we're looking for, as it does say in the ordinance, the commission approves a fire inspector, and it gives him the authority to perform those duties. As the fire chief, I maintain the overall jurisdiction authority, but the fire inspector will have the inspection authority once approved. And then I've listed in there that the city ordinance numbers that it will be in accordance with. And I know some people may not be aware of what IAW stands for. If you work in the nuclear world, where I work at the Cook Nuclear Plant, we have acronyms for everything. And so the IAW is in accordance with the program will be lined up in accordance with our ordinance. Talked about the press release already a little bit. A couple things will have to happen as this program gets approved. John's going to have to get added to our city email to be part of the group in that. We have to decide how we want him to be contacted. Right, you know, if he's going to get a city cell phone, or if we're going to use the city number to make contacts with them, you know, go through the city, how we're going to do that. Those are some things we thought about that'll have to be approved or have to be thought as the program goes. You'll see a big section in the center. You'll see that I'm projecting we need a $6,000 budget line added to our budget. And this will cover a few things. One is John has continuing education he has to do with this certification. There's also 2 other certifications that go along with the fire inspector. Right now, he's just fire inspector 1. I don't want to say just, because that doesn't, it was a lot of work to get that. I don't want to make it sound like it's lightly, but there's a fire inspector 2 and a plan reviewer cert that can go along with that to get all the Michigan certs. So the budget increase will cover those things, any materials, because when you do inspections, you're going to need, you know, materials to perform those duties. And the other big thing is pay. Right now, we currently pay our firefighters $12 an hour when we're out on a call or training. In the state of Michigan, most certified firefighters can start working at $50,000 plus or more. So I can't see us paying our certified fire inspector $12 an hour. So I'm projecting we pay John $20 an hour while performing fire inspection duties. And I would like to, for our firefighters, when they assist him, pay them at $15 an hour, an added rate. There's a couple things that's going to be a benefit with that. One is, as this program goes on, some of the guys know sitting here that we have an ISO rating of 5, which is pretty good for our fire department in our town. In our size, with our response and our numbers, we have a pretty good rating. As our program progresses and we get better into it, and if we have our firefighters assist John as we do this, they can do pre-planning also. And those are 2 things that we were kind of lacking in our last ISO audit. Is we didn't have a whole lot of pre-planning. We had our apartments pre-planned, but we didn't have any of the business pre-planned because we weren't doing inspections. And we weren't. So if we start with inspections and pre-planning, that could help lower the ISO rating for some of the businesses and, you know, homes too, but mostly for businesses. So those are the things we're looking at with that. And like I said, we talked about the first year, if approved, will be a more cursory. We want to go out there, you know, let the businesses know, hey, this is the program we're starting. We're going to, you know, come in and these are the things we're going to look for, you know, and give them that kind of that time to work into it. And then a year later, let them know that, hey, when we come back, it'll be, you know, when we come back in a year, it'll be compliance time. We'll expect compliance. And there's some things that go with that. One of the things we have to decide is how we want to do this. And that doesn't have to be decided tonight, but we want to do a 3-strike type thing. You know, if we give them a notice and come back in 30 days, and if they haven't complied, give them a second notice. What we do know that if we get to the point where we have to have some type of action after the 3rd notice, we have to have the city involved because we have no full-time staff. We have nobody at the station. So we'll have to turn that over at that point to somebody at the city, whether that's City Hall, the police department, because the city ordinance actually talks about, which I was kind of didn't realize, it talks about it being, if you get to that point where, if you're looking at the section 4.2 TAC 5, it talks about could be guilty of a misdemeanor. So maybe this is something that if we ever get to that point, and I don't foresee that, honestly, most departments have very few real issues when they have to get to that 3-strike type thing. But if we ever do, we'll have to figure out how we're going to manage that because we don't have the full-time staff to do that. So, you know, maybe it'd be, at that point, we'll turn it over to the police department. I'm not really sure. But right now, we just want to get the program going. We want to get John out there, get these things started, and so that's what we're here for. We're here to present this to you. If we can get your approval, well, the hope is to start at the first of the year. You know, start 2019 fresh with it and start working in it. We've asked the city for a list of all the businesses within the city limits, and so because we got to categorize, we got to categorize because each business or industry is a little different. So that's pretty much it. You got anything to add?
I think you've covered it all.
I do talk a lot.
Are there?
Any questions?
Are there questions?
Just a couple. I've never been fortunate enough to meet John. John, can you just tell us about yourself and your experience and what you can bring to the job?
Well, I joined the fire department, I think this is my 7th year now, going on my 8th year. And then through the fire service, got into this inspection thing, which is usually like a 2-hour or a 2-year class, you know, like at a community college to get all the certification stuff. But we found a program that did it in 3 months. So went through that program, learned a lot. We haven't been doing inspections, and, you know, as Chief was talking about our ISO rating, it's one of the things that can help hopefully lower the insurance for a lot of people. And just the fact they haven't been done. I mean, we all live here, and we've all been in places, and, you know, some are sketchier than others, I guess. And, you know, we're looking for compliance. I'm friends with a lot of business owners. I know a lot of people downtown. And that's not even the priority. When we get this business list, we're looking at we're trying to prioritize what are our most, you know, life safety issues. You know, is it the pallet place? Is it a gas station? We want to kind of go through that whole process to put our high priorities first and work our way through. But, you know, the whole purpose of the program is just to make the town safer. Yeah. And this first year, it's just cursory instructions. We just want to talk to people and let them know what we're going to be looking at. So when we come next year, you know, do we have the right number of fire extinguishers? Do we have our exit signs? Are we not using electrical, you know, extension cords for everything, you know, in your tavern?
Plus, John did have some prior experience before he came to the fire department in fire protection. Like the companies that come into the businesses or the city halls like this and inspect the sprinkler systems, or the fire inspector. Or
I was a fire inspector for Tyco and Simplex, and we did alarms and systems and pull stations, and I also teach high school marching band in Indiana.
So,
Can I keep going?
Sure, go ahead.
So my next question is for you, Chief. Your $6,000 budget, can you tell us how you came up with that number?
well, John and I sat down and we were kind of going over this, and obviously this is a ballpark number, but what we looked at is, until we know the exact number of businesses, we really can't have a defined number. But what we looked at is the amount of hours we figured we'd spend out doing inspections across a year, you know. Because for like John, the fall is a really busy time of the year in his full-time work. He's, you know, we know he wouldn't perform a lot of inspections during that time. But in the other months, he would, you know, be able to spend more time with it. He's not going to be a full-time employee, obviously, or even a part-time employee, but we want to pay him for his time. So that's what we kind of sat down and figured the numbers. I didn't bring the numbers with me, but we kind of figured the numbers on how many hours he'd spend in a year, and then I tagged on a person with him for each one of those. And
Well, then, in your standard operating guidelines, I see the very last one is G. It says the city of Buchanan shall be responsible for public notifications of premises that require fire inspection. And item C says compliance the Buchanan City Fire Department shall be responsible for maintaining records of all compliance inspections. Any non-compliance issue shall be forwarded to the city clerk. So I'm just curious, is the work that needs to be done by the city clerk, is that included in your budget, or is that going to be?
no, that wouldn't be. What we're looking at there is we would maintain all the records we do of inspections until we get to that point of non-compliance, and that's what we were talking about earlier, where we would turn it over, you know, because we don't really have people there full-time to somebody to show up at noon or, you know, whatever to.
Well, my only concern is that we're adding to a workload of a already stressed staff, is where I'm headed with that question.
And I can appreciate that, I can. But I don't really think those few, I think that'll be very few and far between, honestly, when we get to that point, you know, of non-compliance. Most people out there want to do the right thing. I mean, I'm sure there might be some. I don't see that being where we're going to be overwhelming anybody with that amount of non-compliance. I really don't. I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
I only have one last question. How long does the certification last?
Excuse me. I need to maintain 60 credit hours every 3 years. So every 3 years, I get recertified.
As long as he keeps his CEs up, let's say continuing education, he's good.
And I've been certified now for 2 months, and I'm at 25 credits already.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do you plan on charging the business owners for the inspections?
That's not our department. that would be on you guys. Same thing with noncompliance. If it's the third strike, that's on you guys to determine what's the penalty, what's the cost, what, you know, it's kind of like our building inspector. You know, if they're not complying and they have to have a ticket written, you know, some sort of fine, you know, that's kind of out of our hands. That's would kind of have to be developed by the city to get that final compliance.
There is some departments out there that do charge to go do inspections, I know that, but most of them are full-time staff, you know,
Right.
full-time departments would have a staff. If that's the route we take, that would have to be, like I say, we'd have to sit down with, I'm not sure, Bill, whoever, and kind of come up with a game plan for that. You know, maybe that's how they want to, I shouldn't say they, we want to, you know, augment what I'm projecting. But I wouldn't want to try that for the first year.
Right.
Because the first year, we just want to get into the buildings, talk to the people, and make them aware that this is where we're going. And then maybe after the first year, say, you know, get to that point. But I did not plan for that when
And there
we were
are
coming up
plenty
with
of cities that's how they fund the inspection program, is they just charge the businesses. But like what Mike was saying is, yeah, you know, never having inspections and then walking in and saying, oh, by the way, you got to pay for this. It's a little rough, you know, for the people that have been here for a long time. So I don't know how we, you know, squeak into that or, you know, ease ourselves into it. But the budget line, I mean, the basic salary, like you were saying, is, you know, is in the $50,000. That's for every community around us. You know, we're nowhere near that. You know, $6,000, I don't even know if that's enough to pay me to do all the places in town. That's why we're starting small and building it from the ground up. We're going to kind of take a year to reevaluate to see just what it's going to take to make these inspections happen and to get compliance across the board. So it's a very gray area right now because it's so new. We're building it from the ground up.
Yeah, like I say, as far as I know, and I've been on department since 1991, we've never performed any, so this is new for everybody involved.
But I've been helping with inspections in St. Joe, I've been helping with inspections in Niles. I'm trying to learn how they do it to help build our program, but we want to make it our program. You know, this is Buchanan, and our program should be, you know, more centered on us than how the other towns do it. So it's probably going to take us about a year to figure it out, get our feet wet, so to speak.
Are there any other questions? I just had a couple, a question and a comment. So half the year left to our end of our accounting year. So you're talking about 3,000, but what kind of equipment, there was some mention that wasn't just all salary or hours, you know, wages. So was there some startup equipment you needed
There's
that's
basic
included?
things, tape measures
Oh,
to measure
okay.
places, camera. You know, when I went through the schooling, it was, do not use any of your own personal stuff. Don't use your own laptop. Don't use your phone to take pictures. It has to be city property. Because if it ever, you know, makes it to court or whatever, it's got to be, it can't be my own personal stuff.
Right.
Basic, how do people get a hold of me? We've got people contacting the fire station right now, asking about fire extinguishers and basic inspection questions, but there's got to be a way to be able to route it to me. So it's basic little things. There's no big expenses. Most of it's a flashlight and a pen and paper, and I'm making these inspection checklists
Step ladders,
myself.
you know, simple
Right.
things.
Little things, but we don't know yet
Okay.
till we get in and start doing it. Clark will be completely different than McCoy Creek. It's kind of whatever we get into is going to kind of determine, oh, we need this to inspect this kind of place. And we'll be pre-doing that a little bit. I've already started going into plenty of the businesses and checking them out and introducing myself. And so I can't completely answer the question, but
No,
it's not like we need,
you did
know,
answer the
another
question.
truck.
Yeah, right, that's
Stuff
what
like
I'm
that.
making sure
Office.
you're not getting another truck. No, and I, as a person who has Clay Township Fire Station inspecting my practice in South Bend, there is no charge there, and they come on a yearly basis. And it's mostly checking the fire extinguisher being up to the current certification and things like that. So very easy, but, and basically, if you seem personable, that's an important part of it, because you want to be welcomed into businesses. It's not like a hammer on top of people. but
Exactly.
So, I mean, if that's the attitude, I think that's a good step for us.
Yeah, we want to start off on a good foot, you know, kind
Yeah.
of ease into it as we go. And we know eventually we're going to have to get that, you know, I wouldn't say hammer, but we're going to have to obviously get, you know, some people are going to be a little more, you know, stringent with, but we want to ease our way into this.
Right, and we can't blame any, they have no idea. You know,
Exactly,
they're
it's
following
an
the business codes,
education.
they're following the law, but maybe they don't know they need 2 extinguishers instead of 1. So we're just here to educate and get compliance to just make everything safe.
I think that's good. Okay, well, any other questions before we move on? All right, thank you very much.
All right,
for
thank
the
you.
presentation. The city treasurer, come forward, please. Good evening.
I'd like to start off by thanking Kenley Penner with Plant Moran. Your report validated all of our hard work and commitment to making a healthy financial community. And I'd like to also acknowledge everyone's hard work. It's something that we do every day, and it's everybody at the city contributes to what you just heard Kenley say. So I want everyone to be acknowledged. And thank you again, Kenley. Winter taxes will be mailed December 1st, and the due date to pay your winter taxes at City Hall is February 14th. So everyone can remember that because it's Valentine's Day. And after that, 3% penalty will be added if you don't make the February 14th due date. And we can collect the winter taxes through February 28th. And after March 1st, then they become delinquent, and then they go to the county. So everyone has from December 1st to February 28th to pay their taxes at City Hall before having them go delinquent. One important thing I wanted to remind our taxpayers, this changed several years ago, but some people are still a little confused, is years past, summer taxes, if they weren't paid, they would get rolled over, and then you would see them on your winter tax bill as unpaid. Well, now that doesn't happen. The county sends you one summer bill and one winter bill. So if a taxpayer doesn't pay your summer bill and you get your winter bill, and it's a small winter bill because, you know, it's only a couple, 2-3 mills, please remember you still owe your summer bill. And if anyone is confused, just have them call City Hall, and we'll let them know how much they owe, so that there's no surprises come March 1st. And every year after the audit is complete and we receive our financial statements, I begin the annual task of preparing multiple state reports, the F-65, the Act 51, Public Act 202, which is a pension report, and all of those have been completed and submitted to the proper state departments. And every year after the audit, we are required to submit a number of reports to the state to be eligible for state revenue sharing, which Kenley mentioned is about $722,000. In years past, it would give it to us, but now we have to work for it and really submit quite a bit of paperwork and reporting to show that we are actually doing what we say we're doing, and we're spending the money that we say we're going to, and be totally transparent. And the deadline to complete those reports and have them available on our website is December 1st, and those have all been submitted as of November 14th, and Mandy has them on our website, so thank you, Mandy. Mandy does a great job with our website. Speaking of our Facebook page, I'd like to urge everyone with internet access, please go to City of Buchanan, Michigan, like us, because it's the fastest way that we can get important information out to you. We like to, you know, post all the events and activities and make it interesting and fun to read, but if there's any emergency such as a boil water order or fire or anything like that, we can get information to you immediately through Facebook. So right now, we currently have 5,821 fans. We call them our Facebook friends, BFFs, and, which is pretty good because we have, 4,682 people in town, so we feel pretty blessed with that big amount, but we still would like to have more people because it's the fastest way that we can get our public service announcements out. Another thing we like to encourage is, and let people know is that City Hall does continue to accept debit and credit card payments. That's getting quite popular. It's through a company called GovPayNet. You can simply go to our website. Mandy has a nice little button, online payments, I believe you put, and you click on that and you can go to different areas to pay either your utility bills or your taxes. There's a small fee that we don't collect, GovPayNet collects, but it is very convenient. We also have the ability to email customers their monthly water bills, and if you get an email from us, you can simply click on the link and pay your water bill that way too, and that's very convenient. If you'd like to sign up for that, all you need to do is email waterbill@cityofbuchanan.com, and we can sign you up for that. And we also have what's called a city email newsletter that Mandy prepares, and residents can sign up for that. And that's another way that we get immediate information out to our residents. And you can let us know that you want to be on that list by contact or emailing us at citynews@cityofbuchanan.com. Or you can call us and we can get you set up. Very simple. I think that's it. I know we have a big meeting, so I'll just leave the other stuff out, but, so, any questions?
Any questions for the city treasurer? I just wanted to say once again, thank you so much for all your dedication.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
And the entire city, I mean, because a lot of this is reflecting your discipline and how you keep, these guys don't know, you're going to keep us disciplined. So during those budget discussions, so we appreciate everything
Thank
you
you.
do.
Thanks,
It's
Julie.
very
It's
important.
truly an honor to come in every day. I just had my 28th anniversary here at the city just a couple weeks ago, and it still feels like, no. I truly want to tell you, it feels an honor every day I walk in the door. I love
Thanks,
my
Julie.
job.
I appreciate your hard
Yeah.
work.
So,
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay,
That it?
that's it.
All right, great,
We're
thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Maybe my-
I see there's no unfinished business. Let's move on to new business.
Okay.
And is there any motion approving the fire inspection program?
Your Honor, I'll make the motion that we approve the fire inspection program.
Is there support?
Second.
We have the motion and support. Is there any discussion about this? If not, Bill?
I'd make some comments. Again, you heard a lot of questions about logistics of the program, and that's something I'll be working with Chief Adams and in creating those answers to a lot of those logistical questions on how to do this. Again, it is intended to be an educational form of inspection. At least for the first year, I'm sure we'll get 100% compliance. But it has been in our ordinances, but we did not have at a volunteer fire department level, a certified inspector for all these years. And I recognize the effort that was put into achieving this certification. We do now have a certified inspector on hand now, so we can move forward with this program. It's very valuable. We have a downtown business district that is connected wall to wall, and we do need to take a look at what the fire potential is in all of the buildings, not just for downtown, but all the commercial buildings in town, to make sure that we can maybe avoid a mishap. And that's where our intent is. It's not to be heavy-handed or, overly intrusive, but to protect our downtown environment and our assets downtown. So, yeah, there'll be a lot of little logistical things that we'll work out. So the funding as you mentioned, he's asked for 6. We're at half-year mark. You'll see a approval come your way to approve that $3,000 starting the first of the year. But right now, we're just looking for you to generally endorse and support the fire inspection program tonight.
Are there any further comments or questions? Then can we have a roll call, please?
Dennison? Yes. Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And let's go on to item B. Appoint John Poner as fire inspector. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion, Your Honor, to appoint John Perner, am I pronouncing that right? As fire inspector for the city of Buchanan.
Is there support? Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. Let's have roll call, please.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison? Yes. Turney?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, our next item of new business is approved medical marijuana stacking application for Red Bud Roots Lab 3 at 448 Post Road. Bill? Deborah, whomever would like to bring us up to date?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. In your packet, you do have the copy of a stacking permit from Red Bud Roots Lab 3, which is their facility at 448 Post Road. And I'm pleased to be able to put that in your packet. It's very succinct to the point. They are applying to stack an additional Class C license at their facility there. It's been designed to accommodate at least that number of plants, and it was designed that way in anticipation of being able to stack. I'm happy to say that everything that they've done has been exemplary and above board, and we're very happy to assist them in any way that we can. Their application is very complete. I will let you know the copy that you have, excuse me, in your packet was not signed by the fire department. The fire chief was on some business in Orlando, Florida, I believe, when I was doing this, but Bobby Blaylock, our deputy fire chief, came in and he did sign and was happy to do that. So it's been all through staff review. Everyone is excited actually to see them be able to grow their business, and so I'd be looking for you to approve that. Dave Murray is here. Excuse me. We have actually 2 representatives from Red Bud Roots who are also here, so are here if you have questions that I can answer or would like to address them directly, please do so. But if you have questions, I'd be happy to give it a stab.
Are there any questions? I think we're all good.
I think so.
Thank you very much.
All right.
And
Thank
is
you.
there a motion to approve the stacking application for Red Bud
Well,
Roots?
Your Honor, I would make that motion. I know the gentlemen, they're very well, and they have an outstanding business over there and have done outstanding work. So I make the motion that we approve the medical marijuana stacking application for Red Bud Roots Lab 3 at 448 Post Road.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Let's have roll call, please.
Moore?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Red Bud Roots.
Yes.
Okay, now we are to item D, approve the resolution 2018-11/181, authorizing officials to endorse the MDOT contracts. Bill, do you
Mayor and
want to?
Commissioners, this is a little bit of a housekeeping issue. We have to have a resolution to approve the signators on MDOT contracts, primarily the Dial-A-Ride contract that we receive funding for through the state. And it's set up for myself and/or the mayor to sign that contract. So,
Any questions?
No, I think standard paper
Then-
correction.
Yeah. Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
Anybody else want?
Keep going.
Keep going?
Whoever,
All right.
anyone?
I'm doing good? Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve Resolution 2018.11/181, authorizing officials to endorse MDOT contracts.
Is there support? Okay, all right. Let's have roll call, please.
Downey?
Yes.
Dennison? Moore?
Yes.
Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right. We're now taking up the resolution adopting the local pavement warranty program. Bill?
Yes, Mayor, Commissioners, the state legislature in 2015 created a transportation funding, in their transportation funding package of 2015. They required a warranty program be created by the local agency, especially for projects that would be 1.8 million and above. I do not see anything in the future that would create a road project specifically that would cost us 1.8 million, but we're required to create the program, or at least identify and approve the warranty program that they're asking us to do. To be compliant, we have to recognize a warranty program. And the warranty program is basically, pavement warranty is agreeing to move forward and handle our road projects under a similar playbook as all the other communities. So it's more beneficial to the suppliers and contractors that we'll be working with. They know that Dowagiac wants this hybrid type of pavement, Buchanan wants this type of pavement, and it kind of brings it into a category that the contractors, suppliers can work with, easier to fulfill, rather than having all these different categories. So it kind of streamlines that process. Again, we'll be part of the warranty program, but subject to its strict requirements. I don't see us in that predicament in the future, because we don't have that kind of money to spend on road projects, but, so.
Any questions for Bill about that? Are we ready for the resolution? Do I have a motion?
You want me to go ahead? All right, guys. I'll make the motion that we approve Resolution 2018.11/182, adopting local pavement warranty program.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, could we have roll call, please?
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison? Yes. Turney?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And following that is the implementation of that resolution. Anyone want to make a motion? Or this is really just the...
Basically, they want two separate resolutions. To be compliant is one basically saying that we're going to implement the program that we just approved.
Okay, very good. Any questions about that?
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right.
All right.
Yay.
Implement local payment warrants.
Excellent.
And I will give him a second.
Excellent. Any further discussion on that? If not, roll call, please.
Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Dennison?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, our next item is approving the resolution canceling the December 26th commission meeting.
Mayor, Commissioners, this has been usually a question of quorum availability, so normally there's been travel plans of the commission that would put in question a quorum for that meeting. So we just want to maybe address that now and see if what your pleasure is on having that December 26th meeting or canceling it.
Does anyone want to make a comment, or do you want to just make a motion on the resolution? As far as I'm concerned, I think I agree we should cancel the meeting because it is so close to the holidays, and I would be happy to be here for signing any of the needed checks, so.
That's part of the requirement, is if we do cancel it, commissioners available to sign checks.
Yeah, I will be available.
I will also be available.
Okay.
And that, Ronnie, would.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we approve the resolution 2018-11/184, cancel December 26th commission meeting.
Is there support?
Second that.
Thank you. Any discussion about that further? If not, I don't see anyone saying anything. Let's have roll call, please.
Dennison? Turney?
Yes.
Whedon?
Yes.
Downey?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, now we're on H, approve the Downtown Development Authority Director job description for hiring a new director.
Mayor, Commissioners, in your packet, is a job description for a part-time DDA director. It's a job description that was approved and is now being recommended to the commission for approval. It's, I believe, the DDA's desire to eventually hire a part-time director to help them move their projects forward. And and as you see, they earmarked $22,000 a year for this part-time individual who has an expectation to be putting in 20 hours a week for that. So,
Are there any questions about that?
Your Honor, can I ask a question? Bill, what's the city's part with that? I know we're in probably some discussions where we're going to be separating, isn't that true?
yeah, there's been discussion with the DDA and the city about providing them more autonomy in their activities, which I'm fine with and support. That discussion still needs to continue. I know that DDA has had discussions with the chamber, possibly getting a separate agreement between the chamber and the DDA to hire a 40-hour per week director that they would share. Ours would be an agreement between the city and the DDA, which kind of just sets the boundaries for them to monthly report their activities to myself and then to the commission. Part of the agreement would be twice a year they would provide a face-to-face report to the commission of their activities, their spending, and so on. And so I think what part of the desire is that they believe that they could do better, make some better decisions without the influence of the city in some of those decisions. So I think that's where we're at this time. Again, Barbara Gordon was a big supporter of that effort. She has left the DDA. DDA now has a new chairperson, And we're hoping to revive that conversation. And again, with the new commissioners on the DDA, I'm hoping that that discussion will continue.
Yes?
Bill, I have another questions. I know Barbara left. Who is the new chairperson?
Sandy Hivert, Sandy's Floral downtown. So, and again, that was her first meeting this last couple of weeks, well, a couple of weeks ago. So she's trying to gain speed, and hopefully with the new faces on the DDA, that'll move forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I guess I must be on board again, huh? Okay. I'll entertain the motion that we approve the Downtown Development Authority, the DDA, director job description for hiring a new director.
Is there support?
I'll second.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion about that motion? If not, roll call, please.
Whedon,
Yes.
Dennison. Turney,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Downey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item I. First reading of the ordinance to opt out of Michigan's Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act and set a public hearing date for Monday, December 10th, 2018.
Mayor, Commissioners, Deb will do the reading.
Mayor and Commissioners, I seem to be selected to read ordinances, so
We appreciate it.
my pleasure here. This one is a lot shorter than the last one I read, so that's good. This is proposed ordinance number 218, .12/410 from the city of Buchanan, county of Berrien, state of Michigan. It's an ordinance to opt out of Michigan's Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. The city of Buchanan ordains. Section 1. The city of Buchanan prohibits marijuana establishments within its boundaries pursuant to the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. The reference for this language comes from Section 6.1 of the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. Section 2. This ordinance shall be effective 15 days after the date of its enactment. And then the remainder is simply language saying at the regular meeting of the city of Buchanan, Berrien County, Michigan, held at the Buchanan City Hall on Monday, December 10th, Commissioner whomever moved to adopt the following ordinance, which motion was seconded by whichever commissioner would second it. And that's the ordinance in its entirety.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, finish.
No, I was just going to say in your briefing, just to give a little bit of background, our deputy city attorney approached the city once the vote was cast and suggested that we begin to address recreational marijuana right now. That's what started our conversation. We had, the option of not to do anything. We also discussed opting out, not as a permanent opt-out, but rather because of some of the experience that we had with medical marijuana. We enacted an ordinance, the state sort of changed the rules for us. We also had a lot of speculative inquiries and people wanting to make investment, thinking if they made the investment that we would automatically say yes. And so the ordinance is being proposed not as a permanent scenario, but in order to give us time to talk about it with the Planning Commission. The act under 6.2, I believe it is, I do have it here, allows us to adopt some ordinances to regulate time, place, and manner, the signage, and those types of things, which we will have to deal with. But that's, excuse me, that's why it's on your agenda tonight is to start that conversation and move forward from there and whatever your pleasure is with that.
Commissioner Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, the city is moving too fast. Second off, the voters of the state of Michigan voted for recreational marijuana. Third, the voters of the city of Buchanan voted for recreational marijuana. Fourth, according to what the state has, no business can open up for 1 year until they determine what they're going to do. There is no need for this. Okay? I will be voting no on this. What I would want to do is possibly, if you wanted to do, is have discussion without this, if you want to do, hold on meetings on that and have discussion, but we're moving way too fast. You can just do nothing,
Correct?
and that's all you got to do. So there's no need for this. And I don't go against the voters. The voters took the time to come out for the referendum and voted. So I will not take the stand against voters. So I would be a no.
Bill?
Mayor, Commissioners, and again, Commissioner Attorney, I totally understand what you're saying. The city of Buchanan approved recreational marijuana by 170-some votes. What this represents here tonight is recommendations from other communities, MML, to consider opting out at this time, because as Deb alluded to, and some of the things we kind of experienced under medical marijuana, there was a lot of speculation going on, a lot of people investing some serious money into properties ahead of any of this really getting understood, the medical marijuana side. And I believe that we will have the same thing with the recreational. Once the certified law appears 10 days after, it's all good. As Deb alluded to, we're going to get people that will buy properties and invest some big money with the understanding that they're a shoe-in to get the local community to approve that commercial location. The statute already provides for the 5 medical marijuana dispensaries we have to have that ability to sell. So, we're not really going to be stopping that. What we're trying to is reduce the speculation and get it under control early, that we've got a lot of things to discuss. We've got zoning to discuss about where and how do we want to allow these commercial recreational sales locations, okay, in the community. We've already approved 5 medicals that are already identified as places that will be able to sell recreational. So how many more do we want? There's a lot of zoning questions, and all we're asking for is to opt out at this time for you to have this later discussion about recreational, okay? And,
Excuse me.
yeah, no, thank you. So that's kind of all we're asking here for, okay? We're not saying no forever. We're just trying to buy some time so that the door is very clearly closed to any speculation, any purchasing of property, and then maneuvering us into believing that they are a shoe-in. And I will say that we had that situation with one of the medical marijuana people who bought and released a long-term lease on a piece of property, and they were number 6 on the lease, or on the list, and they rattled their litigation sabers about, hey, we invested all of this, we believe we were a shoe-in, what happened? Well, you were number 6. The music stopped and there's only 5 chairs. You're number 6, but that wasn't good enough. So, that's what we were trying to avoid in this. But again, as Commissioner Attorney said, it's going to be a year down the road before the state, again, we're lucky if the state will be ready in a year, but for the state actually to issue any licenses. But we have a lot of discussions to do locally with our zoning, just trying to understand it. You know, it's brand new. I just don't want to get caught into that little donut hole or pigeonhole where everybody is trying to set up and invest in a commercial site ahead of us really weighing in on it. So, and I totally recognize the vote to support recreational marijuana in the city of Buchanan. And I'm sure you'll make that decision later on, which we can rescind this just as easy as adopting it. But, you know, I guess that's my take on it. That's what other communities are doing. The city of Niles just did it because of this same thing. I spoke with Manager Huff over there, and that's what, you know, they were instructed to do. That's what MML is recommending us to do at this time, just to make sure that, you know, nothing appears that we can't address until we're ready to address it.
Are there other questions? Go ahead, Sean.
I didn't know where to start. We've really gotten thrown into it, haven't we? This is our third meeting for the three new commissioners, and we've been told we need $69 million to fix our water and sewer, and now this is on our plate within 2 weeks of election. So a lot of what Bill just said, I totally agree with. Proposition 1 isn't even a law, it's an act, okay? And it says that local governments can regulate where, when, and how recreational facilities operate. But then it gives absolutely no, it doesn't give you any rules, but it says the ballot measure forbids towns from implementing rules that a business person could find unreasonable. So who gets to define that? So my worry is that, you know, those people who want to open businesses, they're going to be able to challenge us anytime we say no to anything. And right now, we don't have the funds for all those legal necessities. So I agree with you on that. I worry that it's going to open us up to liability. I also agree with you that we have way more to discuss. Way more. And I think that 2 weeks after an election is too early to start without having those discussions. I think those discussions need to happen first, and then we can talk about opting out. But I think the discussions have to happen prior to.
Anyone else? I mean, you've spoken once before. Go ahead.
I mean, I see both sides of it. I think you had some great points, and I think, and I wrote everybody's name down, Alan, and Dan and Ed. Cindy, I know yours was different from everybody else's, and we spoke at the forum. And I understand your apprehension. I think that the number of people that spoke this evening speak for the voices of Buchanan, right? And they spoke when they elected the three of us to make decisions that were not going to be easy. I'm also in lockstep with Dale that I am going to vote no for opt-out. I understand the apprehension from the city manager. I also don't care for the idea that this was thrust upon us on Wednesday to make a decision with lack of information, right? We keep talking about education, information, and discussions, but nothing was brought before us to have discussions about how and why the decision was potentially brought to us today to opt out. As the people spoke today, they pointed to us and said, why are you choosing to potentially opt out of this? Well, I knew nothing of it until Wednesday when the packet was delivered. So when you say us, that wasn't clearly designed by us. So that's where I stand on that.
Is there anyone? Do you have a comment? Okay.
I just had one other comment. Commissioner Dennis, I just want to let you know that tonight is the certification of the election. 10 days after the election, PA1 becomes law. Okay, you said it's not law. It will be in 10 days.
Proposal 1 was not a law tonight.
Tonight, oh, okay, maybe I just didn't hear that, though. But in 10 days it will be, so I just wanted to make that known. And I agree with you. We need to have more further discussions. We just can't just jump into this and say, go for it.
Sure.
You know, since Wednesday, I have been struggling with this. I really have, because of what Mark just said, because we get it on Wednesday, and I think, oh my God, they're putting this in front of us already. And the only thing that I can come up with, though, is that right now, it's like, it would be like putting my daughter in a car, and I'm struggling, I really am. Marijuana's here to stay, it's not going anywhere, and we're going to have to deal with it. But there's so much unknown about it, and about, how they're going to regulate it and the laws. And the only way I could think of it was, right now, it's like putting my daughter in a car with a stranger without knowing where they're going, what they're doing, or whether they're coming back. It's just totally unknown. And I don't think we can just, 2 weeks after the election, opt out and not discuss it. I really think we should have a public hearing. We should have a bunch of them. And we should hear what the citizens think, and we should keep talking about it amongst ourselves before we make any final decisions.
Anyone else have a comment? Do you have a comment? My comment is that I understand this is really coming from our legal department because they're looking to protect us from exposure. And through past experience with the medical marijuana. But I'm afraid that the population would see this, even though it's brought forward as a temporary measure to protect us and start the discussion, I think a vote to opt out now would be interpreted as slamming the door on potential businesses. So I think this may be appropriate at a later time, and I would be happy to entertain like some dates where we could have work sessions or have just basically general airing out of everyone's opinions, just like we did multiple times. We of all the cities in the area, I think we were the most careful to hear everybody's input. And formulating, we went above and beyond in inviting people to come forward and talk to us. So I know you had this first reading, and typically how this would work is we would have the reading, then we have public hearings. I would just like to entertain a motion to withdraw the ordinance at this point in time.
And I would second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion about that?
I'm sorry.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Can I entertain something that if we take this off? And maybe we should put in as to have some public discussions on this?
Well, I think that would be the city manager would be able to kind of put
Okay,
that in
I-
future
okay.
meetings. So as far as what we're doing with this item right today, my motion is that we at this time withdraw the ordinance to, we're just going to withdraw it.
Second that again.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, let's have roll call.
Moore,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
Downey,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Okay, very good. Let's move on to our last new business item, approve the quote to repair the 2009 International in the amount of $8,820.98.
We're back here again with another maintenance issue.
Another bill.
Yeah, this is our 2009 dump truck, plow truck. It has a emission regeneration filter that is bad. We've already cleaned this filter once, and I think it has the condition where you can clean it once, you can't clean it twice, from what I understand. And Best One that does our work on these larger trucks has said that they can't clean this item again and will have to replace it. Those are not cheap units. The technology at the time was that the emissions would get into this filter and it would regenerate and create a lot of heat and somehow sterilize the emissions in this truck. I don't know, Commissioner Wheaton may know a little bit about that type of element. But in order to get this truck up and rolling, it's going to cost us $8,820 to make the necessary repairs to get this truck back in service.
Is this the truck that he was driving to Ohio?
No, it is not.
It is not. So is
Nope.
this the one with that needed the cylinder work for the bed, or no?
No, this is not. No, this is not.
Any other questions?
What's customary for quotes? I know this is a quote from Best One. Do we traditionally ask for, or has the commission in the past asked for quotes from other shops? Or do we just traditionally go with?
Well, in this situation, the trucks are, to get this quote, we already took the truck to Best One, so it is kind of sitting in parts on the floor at Best One, waiting for consideration tonight. I mean, if we get additional quotes, it'll cost us some more time, and again, we had the snow day today. We operated with 2 trucks to do what we were able to do, and even one of those, the second one broke down with a hydraulic hose leak. So, you know, we can go and get more quotes, but it's going to be time consuming.
Go ahead.
And this was brought up when Dan was still commissioner and coming from trucking, and Sean deals with trucks as well. What, if any, PM program is done? Can we be provided some documentation?
Yeah, I believe we distributed the report of the maintenance on, well, that was the building, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, we can, we'll.
Because we seem to be spending a lot of money on
And again, these
transportation.
are, this is a 2009 truck. Again, the life expectancy, you heard anywhere from, a lot of places turn them over in 12 to 15 years. We get more nickels out of them than every nickel we can, and that's kind of why our audit report kind of reads like it does. We spend money when we absolutely have to for equipment, and again, the commissioners, past commissioners, did approve 2 new trucks for us. This would be our third truck, third best truck in the fleet, once it gets repaired, so.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioner Dennison and Mark, I sent Bill a spreadsheet that might have been helpful to you guys. When I was a bank carrier, one of my jobs as the bank carrier was to keep track of what went wrong with the vehicle, what was the VIN number, what was the mileage, how much was this, how much was that. So I sent that over to Bill, so hopefully that might be an assistance to them to how to set up a spreadsheet and keep track of all the expenses and repairs that are made, to the vehicles. Because I think that is a very good way of finding out, because when I took over that particular bank, nobody knew anything. And I said, well, this thing's old. What's wrong with it? So I'll just let you know, I did forward that over to Bill.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah. Do we perform any of our own maintenance on these vehicles?
Yes. We do quite a bit of our own maintenance in-house. Only for the largest repairs do we go outside. And again, Best One gives us a mechanics rate of $55 an hour, which is about half of what other large equipment repair facilities charge. So.
It's in this $90 an hour here in the line item.
It should be 55. I think that's usually what our quote is, so,
I believe the first one there is 3
Yeah.
hours at 90.
yes. I was, 55. No, it was, our normal rate is $55. I do see that on that. We'll address it with them, but,
Yeah, down below, 6.6 hours at 90.
yeah.
Mark?
Yes.
Is this filter ceramic?
I have no idea.
I've been involved in these myself, and they're
Okay.
ceramic, so they should last a long time. One cleaning, I think they're going to last until it deteriorates from the heat. And I don't know how many hours that would be. I did a little checking today, and I could get these parts in Plymouth, Michigan for $4,600, Plymouth, Indiana, $4,600. That included the filter, the body, the gaskets, the clamps, the hanger. And we're looking at $7,200, $7,250, I think, for the body and the filter itself. Of course, I didn't have a labor quote.
Is that from Weir International?
Weir, yes.
Weir's charges $90 an hour, that's their labor rate.
Yeah.
That's who we use for fleet maintenance, so they're gonna be, they're $90.
Well, I just did parts alone to see where we're at.
Yeah.
So Bill, do
Okay,
you have any?
so what would you like to do?
I'm with Mark there
Yeah.
on maybe getting a second quote for some of these bigger items.
Okay, we can do that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I agree with you about getting a second quote. My problem now, though, is we need a plow, because it's snowing. And I passed this truck going to Best One on Orange Road, and it was doing about 10 miles an hour with a pickup behind it. So to get it to Plymouth is gonna take somebody more labor and more time. And then we're just gonna have to fit it in their schedule. And then, it's snowy. So I think, I agree with you going forward, maybe we need to get more than one quote when we're talking about this much money, but I think we need to get the truck fixed. And right now, it's in their possession and it's snowing.
Would you like to make a motion up to this amount in case he can kind of get it down some?
I think if Bill, sorry, if you're gonna speak to them about their labor rates, I mean, obviously the cost is gonna drop. It's not gonna be drastic, but
But your motion can be up to that amount, so. So
at this point, we
you're-
don't have a choice. I think Sean's exactly right. The cost is,
Probably gonna,
it's gonna double
it's
just to
gonna,
move it.
driving it to Plymouth alone is gonna
Right.
take away any savings we've got and time and everything else.
Potential further damage to the tractor as well, so.
So I'm looking for a motion.
Motion, sorry, that amount, yes.
You would like to make
Yeah, I'd
up
like
to
to
that
make a
amount?
motion up to
Okay.
that amount.
All right, that's his motion. Is there support?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Downey,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Turney,
Yes.
Whedon,
Yes.
motion carries.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, we're now at public comments. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to discuss any non-agenda item. Come forward, Mr. Vagonski.
This should be interesting.
I just wanted to do a dance, guys. I just wanted to do a dance. First and foremost, Dan Bianski, 103 North Detroit. I want to publicly apologize, but I haven't heard a point of order for a month. And I'm just being weaned off a gag order. So I'm exhilarated, and I'm wide open, and I'm noisy, and I'm going to be disruptive. But my question is, have you considered me for the DDA committee? I volunteered for the DDA. I was alternate on the planning. I was alternate on the appeals. I applied for the BARB, and I'm still on water and sewer. You've had a week. You definitely know who I am. You may not like me, but it's up to you to appoint me. Have you got any other candidates? And you don't really need to answer that. I'm just really super excited about this. There was a couple of other things, but I've lost all track. I do want to apologize for disrupting your meeting. It was, and I want to thank you guys again, because I don't know how I managed to sit up here for an hour and a half listening to this. That's why there was always a point of order called on me, and that's why there was a gag order put on me. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment, please?
312 West Chicago. I would like to ask, after an experience this evening when we didn't see any of the slides you were privy to on the budget or the counting, and then the last time when we had that not imaging, I can't remember what it was called, meeting with the Southeast Michigan planner, he had slides and we couldn't see them. So it's now been over a year for this slide projector, or wherever it is, to work. So I would ask that we would give some priority, since this is an envisioning meeting for the public. So we would like to spend some money on getting it fixed or whatever.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with comments?
I got the chance to thank Chief Marks at the beginning of the meeting, but I just want to say thanks. I'm not sure who to thank, but they made repairs to that retaining wall right there behind the mill, and they took care of a great eyesore in the community, and it looks beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to be heard? If not, we'll go to the city manager comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, again, you got a little email to some of the challenges we had today is, again, with the heavy snow and that, our plows were out at 3:30. Excuse me, we were called by the police department at 3:30 that the roads needed to be plowed. We were out on the streets at 4:15 this morning, and again, with the two trucks, and we had, I believe, one pass done in most of the city by 8:30 this morning. So again, the new truck really works well. We're finding that we can go at a slower speed and plow well with that new truck. We did experience a little breakdown on the other 2001 dump truck. We lost a hydraulic line in that we were repairing this afternoon, so that should be back out. We did experience a lot of trees down in the community. Over on Ottawa Street, I don't know, Dale, if you saw the.
I stopped and saw the guys.
Yeah, 3 large trees that were standing in a grouping. They all came down. One of them came into the street, other 2 remained in the yards up near some structures, but they were just laid over by the roots because of the weight of the snow and stuff on the trees. And that is kind of a caution out to the community to be cautious of the heavy snow on the trees. A lot of limbs have been falling off of those, so be clear on that. Let's see, the power, from what I've been told, I think the power's back on to the western section of the city. We've been shuttling our vac truck and pumping out the lift stations on the western side of the community, Glacier and Post Road lift stations. We had to manually evacuate the water from those lift stations because the pumps weren't running. So again, you know, to the community, again, the snow and the leaves transition period here just makes a mess of the roads. We do end up having to plow the snow off the roads. That takes the leaves that hadn't been picked up yet and puts them back out on the front lawn. And we're going to have to wait for a little bit of a thawing period to, go back and readdress the leaf problem.
Chief, let me ask you, because some people have contacted me about that. So you're going to make another pass when it's a little bit better to pick up the remaining leaves?
Yeah, when we have bulk deposits of the leaves, we'll get out there and, pick those up. And, yeah, there were some streets that again, we didn't get to. There were fewer than greater number of streets, but it seems like every time we make us pass, somebody rakes their lawn right after us, and you know, we have another pile sitting there. So it's quite a struggle. Again, we probably had over 200 truckloads of leaves, both compacted in our vac truck, which are 20-yard buckets, and just the dump trucks filled with leaves that we managed this year. It's a never-ending battle, and then when you get snow on top of it, it makes it very difficult to manage. So, yeah, right now we got a snow-leaf mixture, and we got to wait for the snow to melt out of those leaves before we can pick them up. So, I will also caution the public. A down limb is very dangerous. So, because we don't know if there's power lines in that limb or not, so please don't poke around. I know years ago we lost a state trooper in Niles who was walking down or through a down limb, and there was a live wire in that down tree. So stay away from them. They're very dangerous situations. Even today, two of our workers were cutting up a limb that had fallen the 400 block of Front Street. When they went to handle the limb, they actually got shocked because the still standing tree had a bare wire rubbing against it, and it charged that whole tree. So voltage was coming through the tree into the limb that had already fallen onto the ground that our personnel started to cut up. And, you know, when they grabbed the tree, it gave them a shock.
I think if we could post that story on Facebook.
Yeah.
Just so people know, because the snow's heavy and more tree branches are likely to come down.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We and part of the efforts today, because the snow was so heavy, it was pulling down the limbs. So a lot of our plow trucks were hitting the trees, going down streets. So we were going through a lot of the streets and cutting and trimming the limbs back. Again, we were without a bucket truck for most of the summer, and so we have a lot of catch-up trimming to do on our trees. So
Just to let you know, Bill, on Ottawa Street there, across the street from the school, there was a major tree that fell. A TV station was there, and I went past it. That actually hit the roof and damaged the house. It was a huge tree.
Yeah.
And I saw our crew on Front Street. They were working on that hole, and there was a couple other tree companies working. Front Street took a beating. There's a couple houses over there that really need some assistance, I think.
Yeah, the other tree services are a contractor through I&M. So they're going out handling a lot of those down limbs with wires nearby. But again, we evaluated the site when we had the limb on 400 block of Front Street, and there were no wires in that branch that was down, but it was connected to the main tree, which was being charged by an upper line. So that's a pretty unusual event.
Anything else?
Nope, that'll be it.
Any other questions for the city manager? Okay. Then let's start with Commissioner Sean.
I don't want to belabor the point on the marijuana subject tonight. But I would like to point out that just because we're new doesn't mean we're clueless. I've read more about marijuana in the last 3 weeks than I ever have, actually. And just to kind of go over it again, though, so in 2008, when the medical got approved, it took 8 years for them to figure out dispensaries. So in 2016, they figured that out, and here we are going on 2019, and our businesses in town still don't have licenses and still aren't making any money. So I would never look to Lansing as either a moral compass or an economic genius. So I don't suspect they're going to be doing anything miraculous in the next 12 months. So I think there's plenty of time for us to take our time and have a lot more public discussion before we go forward with that. Secondly, we've got a ton of stuff thrown at us in the last few weeks, which I said earlier. So I'd like to remind the public that when they see the agenda and they see something that they're super excited about and they're very passionate about, to remember that's one thing that we're dealing with and that we're trying to look at the entire big picture, and to keep that in mind when you come and start yelling at us. We want you to come and speak, but we don't want you to just show up when you have something you're passionate about. We would like you to be here all the time, dealing with all the issues that we have. So thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I do appreciate we had a good turnout.
Thank you. Cameron?
Wanted to say thank you to everybody who participated in the White Christmas. Had a nice crowd, a lot of people downtown. It was really nice seeing people come together.
I can send it.
That's it.
That's it.
Commissioner Dale?
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, I'd like to thank JT and the DPW crew. I thought they did an outstanding job on the roads today. I couldn't believe it, how clean it was. Once I got my garage open, because I've been without power since 8 a.m., still not without power. So I thought they did a fantastic job. Please pass that on. My only other comment, as you know, when we get our little checks, they're really small. The last couple ones didn't have the little statement on it that I had requested, so I'm just kind of reminding, I know there's been a change, so that everybody understands where it came from, so there's no questions to you. Other than that, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Moore?
I'd just like to say thank you for everybody who did come out. I think that this is the subject that, as Sean said, to not beat a dead horse or to lay on is, it's a difficult one because of fear of the unknown. And I know that that's probably where most people are lying right now that are outside of the business. I know that the companies and the individuals who are here who are looking at it from a business perspective, and obviously they think of their own families and they think about the communities that they're entering, first and foremost, I'm quite sure of it, that is the number one thing that we can do for all individuals, is to look to them for education, for information. And as we move forward in discussions with the community, that I entertain all ideas from both sides. Sean and I don't agree on some of the things but healthy discussion brings us to that middle ground that could hopefully benefit the town as a whole. Obviously, they've done their due diligence financially to put us in a good position, right? And I think we're on the precipice of doing something even greater with the companies and the businesses we see coming forth. So, other than that, also, yeah, great job on the snow. I didn't make it into work today because frankly, they said don't bother coming in, so the kids got to play outside. So thank you, everybody, for showing up today. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And once again, I thank everyone's participation. It was a very good meeting, very productive. And I didn't have to call anyone out of order. Gee, go figure. Tomorrow is Giving Back Tuesday, and I just wanted to make a pitch for one of the city funds one of the funds that is held by the Michigan Gateway Community Foundation that actually directly benefits the city. So if you ever get this and you want to make your year-end contribution to something that eventually will build up to help us, you would just ask for one of these flyers, put your PayPal or credit information, and then mark one of these many, many funds on the back of here to give your contribution to the Michigan Gateway Community Foundation fund of your choice, which should be the Buchanan City Parks and Recreation Fund, which is something that if we can actually generate and build that fund up, the interest of that years down the road will help provide maintenance for our parks and We need something like this. So this is an endowment that we have, and we're just really getting off the ground. I would just encourage anyone to think about this. If you're going to give something to someone tomorrow, please consider supporting something that actually may help the future of the town. So with that, oh, and also I have one personal note. Tomorrow, a new great-nephew is scheduled to be delivered. So I'm very happy about that, and more Christmas presents got to come. So thank you very much, and thanks for positivity here. I appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
Is support? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned.